Fellow Falcoholics, what is up? Welcome to the Falcoholic Lives Falcons Training Camp 2023 Day 2 recap. It is time, guys, for what is one of our favorite things to do, which is, of course, bring you all the updates from a very hot and sweaty day of training camp. We brave the blistering heat, so you don't have to. Joining me in my coverage this week, of course, is co-host Adnan Ikic at Say Which Way. Adnan, how are you doing on this fine evening?
Doing well. Like you said, it's a very, very sweaty day, very hot day down at the training camp facilities of Flowery Branch. Again, not a cloud in sight. I'll be on the lookout all week to see if we can actually, have a nice cloudy day. I think it's forecast on Saturday, so
Yeah,
hopefully that'll be nice for the fans. But
right.
other than that, it's real football in July weather, and yeah, it's very, very fun to cover.
Yeah, it's I hope for you guys' sake that it is cloudier because it has been brutal. I mean, I think there is an actual heat wave going on, so like that's part of it. But coming from like 72 degrees in Syracuse to this was, it's a bit of a shock. If you guys probably know if you've heard me talk before, like I did grow up in Florida, like I lived in Florida for 20 years, so I'm used to humidity, but it's still, I mean, it's really hot. Like it's even more hot than like it should be, I think. So, it's brutal out there, but don't worry, we've got you. Hold on, I'm gonna crack this beer. We've got you guys covered with all happenings today. A more fun day of practice. We got some one-on-ones. There was a little bit more activity from the actual offense, so that's always a nice change. And we got to see a lot of good plays from young players and rookies, and that's always something that we're looking for. So lots to get to today. Before we do, of course, want to bring you a message from our sponsors. First of all, betonline.ag, your number one source for all your betting needs. You can get the latest odds, lines, and match reports for baseball, boxing, golf, and more. Perhaps you're feeling overly confident in the news you've heard from training camp so far. You can bet on Atlanta to win the NFC South right now, or any other team before the rest of the league catches on in training camp. Maybe you want to hit the over on Clark Phillips interceptions, based on what we saw in practice. So whatever you want to do, BetOnline is your sports intel headquarters this season, as they've got you covered for all your insider sports wagering needs. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to get your betting info, including live betting options and your favorite casino and card games you can play right from your home. So head to the website today or use your mobile deposit or mobile device to get on the action. You can use our promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's where the deposit comes in. So yeah, guys, make sure to use our promo code if you do check it out. 50% off. Believe, BLEAV. Bet online where the game starts. So one more, your favorite ad read, guys. It is BlueChew, and tonight's episode, of course, is sponsored by BlueChew, guys. I know it can be awkward, but let's talk about sex. Remember the days when you were always ready to go? Now you can increase your performance and get that extra confidence in bed. Listen up, BlueChew.com. BlueChew is a unique online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra, but in chewable tablets and at a fraction of the cost. Take them anytime, day or night, so you can plan ahead or be ready whenever an opportunity arises. The process is simple. Sign up at BlueChew.com. Consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. Best part, it's all done online, so no visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversations, and no waiting in line at the pharmacy. Blue Chew's tablets are made in the USA and prepared and shipped direct to your door in a discreet package. Blue Chew wants to help you have better sex. Discover your options at BlueChew.com. Chew it and do it. We've got a special deal for our listeners. Try Blue Chew free when you use our promo code BUCKET. That's BUCKET at checkout. Just pay $5 shipping. That's BlueChew.com, promo code BUCKET to receive your first month free. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And once again, thanks Blue Chew for sponsoring the podcast. All right, Adnan. Busy day, a lot of interesting things. Once again, as our guest of honor, we sort of tried to divide and conquer a little bit today. I was like trying to watch the offensive players specifically during the team stuff, and Adnan was watching the defense. So, but we, naturally you see a little bit of everything. But curious, Adnan, where you want to start first with today's coverage?
Well, let's talk about the tight ends a little bit. I know Not the main one, not not Kyle Pitts, who we didn't really see too much of Kyle Pitts out there, but that was expected. Arthur Smith warned us that they are sort of managing his reps a little bit, and we probably will not see him at 100% out there the entire time. But the other two tight ends on the roster, MyCole Pruitt and Jonnu Smith, they look very good. Uh, they caught everything that was thrown their way. They were targeted early and often by Taylor Heineke and Desmond Ridder uh, throughout all of the scrimmages. You can tell the tight end will be very heavily involved in this offense, but we already knew that already, and more so than ever in the early parts of training camp when you know before these guys have really gotten into a rhythm with their receivers, with their deep shots, they're sort of, checking it down to their safety blankets at tight end. And that's what we saw a lot of today. Jonnu Smith, he looks really good. I think he completely like manhandled Jesse Bates on a one-on-one play, which was very impressive. Completely got away from him. And then throughout the day, he had what I think was maybe the most promising offensive play of the day from Taylor Heineke. And not I don't think people are talking enough about Heineke's pass to Jonnu Smith, which it was on 11 on 11s to the left side of the field, where Heineke just put it put it in the breadbasket, right over Michael Walker's waiting hand and right into the arms of Jonnu Smith, who turned upfield. It was a perfect pass. I tweeted out the video, but we had to take down the video because we'll get to that later on. Um, but yeah, great play by Heineke, great pass to Jonnu Smith. Jonnu Smith looks like the real deal out there. MyCole Pruitt looks like he has picked up right where he left off from. And, other than the tight ends, the other guys that were making a lot of noise were the rookies. Arthur Smith mentioned, and he singled out Clark Phillips, Bijan Robinson, and third round pick Zach Harrison as guys who have really impressed him a couple days in. Bijan, we know Bijan is Bijan. He looks stellar whenever he has the ball, and in the limited moments when you can evaluate a running back. He had that very impressive catch and cut on the first play of 7-on-7s. Drew some oohs and ahs from the crowd. He just looks different out there. Like he looks like if you were to get a novice who has who's been living under a rock somewhere, who knows nothing about the Falcons, and you were to put him in Flowery Branch and you were to ask him, all right, which of these guys is the star player on this team, they would probably single out Bijan Robinson, because he just makes it look easy out there. He
Yeah.
he did have a drop. I do have to mention that, but it is what it is. Nobody can be perfect, but he looks stellar, and of course Clark Phillips. We saw the interception against Drake London on the one-on-one coverage. Phillips actually, Phillips got the better of London in their matchup in college, and he got the better of him again today. Deflected a pass, which it wasn't a great pass. Especially to London against a shorter Phillips, it was very low. Clark Phillips batted it up to himself, and he got the interception. And it's really impressive when a cornerback can get a whole ass pick on a one-on-one coverage. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's an A if you just bat it down. It's like an A plus plus if you can like actually come away with the pick. So,
Hmm.
great play by Phillips there. He made the headlines at camp, and just a very promising day from the rookies in general.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Clark Phillips. That's obviously like the highlight play. I mean, it was so impressive. Like, yeah, the throw wasn't great, and like I honestly couldn't tell you who threw it. I mean, it was probably Ritter. I didn't personally see it was like the first rep, so I imagine it was, but we don't know. Like literally they like that was the first rep. Like I even filmed it late, like it was after Drake started running. So like it could have been Ridder. There's a chance it wasn't. They were basically switching off every rep. So it is what it is with that. The throw was not great, but London catches those passes typically. Like he adjusted to it. I think he would have had a good chance to come away with that, but the throw being off doesn't negate the play by Clark Phillips. I mean, that was an exceptional play. He basically bats the ball with his back turned to it, bats it up in the air somehow with that move, and then turns around, catches it, and then gets a return as well out of it. Really an incredible play. And I just can't say enough good things about that. And again, that's an outside rep. Like that is what the rep you would see on the outside against an outside receiver. I think we should just play Clark Phillips outside. Like honestly, like he is an outside corner. He looks great outside. I know everyone's obsessed with moving him to the nickel. He is small. I get that, but like this guy doesn't have good slot instincts. He's a great outside corner. Like he can do this to Drake London. I mean, I don't really see the point in making him play the slot because you've got Mike Hughes and you got D. Alford there that are two good slot corners. So if it was me, I would have Clark Phillips competing outside. What do you think about? I know that I might be on an island here of like, oh, I think he can still play outside. But what do you think about that, Adnan?
I mean, I can see where you're coming with that, but I don't know. I do think the height would be a bit of an issue with that. I mean, I know like we had Brent Grimes back in the day at similar height
It's
playing outside,
rare.
but
Yeah,
but Brent
rare.
Grimes like could jump out of the building. I don't think Clark has those hops, but I mean, it's hard to argue with the resume that Clark Phillips had in college, playing mostly outside. Um, but yeah, I think they seem set on running him at nickel. And I mean, especially I think there's an easier track to playing. Well, let me not say that. Because you do have Alford and Hughes in competition. I'll retract that statement. But yeah, I don't think that the team really sees him as an outside long term. But it is nice knowing that in an emergency you can throw him out there.
Yeah, and it. As long as he's good, like wherever they play him, it's going to take longer to see him in the slot because again, this is not something he played a lot in college. But I think the ability that we know he can play outside, maybe it isn't his best fit in the NFL, and that's fair. But I'm just I love his outside tape so much. I'm just like, whatever. I don't care. Put him out there. So we'll see. Yeah, we got a lot of more of other good plays to get to as well, guys. Before we do, want to remind folks to, of course, like and subscribe if you're enjoying the show. Leave us that 5-star review on your podcast platform of choice. If you're interested in joining us tomorrow night, Friday at 6 p.m., we'll be at Sweetwater Brewing in Atlanta off Otley Drive. I believe it's 195 Otley Drive is the address. There is an event on. Oh, George. Okay, hold on a second, George. I got a lot of donations to read, mostly from George here now, upstaging the two donations that I was
Holy
about to
shit,
read.
George! I just saw that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll get to that in a second. It's blowing my mind a little much. It's throwing me off. Okay. So yeah, join us at Sweetwater. It's gonna be Adnan and I. It's gonna be Gina. It's gonna be Will McFadden, and we're gonna try to get a show to you guys, whether we have to yell it from the rafters or we're gonna try to rig up like a PA system because I think their PA is kind of on the fritz, so it may not be available for us. So we're gonna rig something up. No matter what, though, we're gonna do something fun and we're gonna hang out with you guys. And it's 10% off drinks and food for all Falcoholic attendees. I think all you have to do is say that you're here for the Falcoholic event. You get 10% off. I did actually go to the brewery on Wednesday. It was very nice. Extensive brew selection, extensive non-alcoholic selection. I believe it is family friendly as well. I don't think there was any restrictions. They have an outdoor area where we'll probably be doing the show. They got ping pong. They got foosball. They got all that stuff. The food was pretty good too. So
What'd you get
definitely
for
check.
your order?
I got it was like a classic bacon cheese, like double bacon cheeseburger. And it was very good. It was very, like I usually go for like the really crazy stuff, but the manager, Nick, was like, oh, get the classic burger. Like it's really good. And it was very tasty. Generally, you could tell the meat was well cooked and well seasoned because with a classic burger, there's not a lot of accoutrements on there to hide it. So the beef and the cook was excellent. So got to give props there. And of course, if you love Sweetwater brews, they got all of them and some special ones too that I'd never seen before. So definitely join us, guys. We're excited for that. All right. I'm going to save George's till the end because otherwise it's going to upstage the people that donated before. So, George, I'll get right to you, buddy. Thank you. We got Yannick with the $10. Is that Yannick Ngakwe? Is he a fan? No, it just says Yannick with the $10. Thank you so much, Yannick, man. Really appreciate that. He says, thanks, guys, for the work you do. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for that. And we got Brian with the $20. Thank you so much, Brian. Really appreciate that, dude. Says, best Falcons coverage out there. Can't wait for some RB4 and wide receiver 5 talk in the coming weeks. All right, this guy's a real sicko. I appreciate that. Hope this money goes to some beers at either Sweetwater or B-Dubs. We get free beers at B-Dubs for the event, so I will use it at Sweetwater for the event. We're not, B-Dubs, hit me up, though, if you guys want to have an event at some point. But I will use it at B-Dubs for sure. Thank you so much for that. And then, of course, the big one, we got George Costanza coming in with the 250 donations. I believe that is a new record. I believe that is a new record for the biggest donation.
Like the top 5 records, it's all like George.
Yeah, it's probably all George. Yeah, I think Michael Scott hit us with 100, so he's definitely in the top 5 as well. But George Costanza, 250 and counting. Falcoholic Lives. Oh, he tipped 250 for 250. Oh, there we go. I get it. Thank you, George.
We didn't even mention that last episode, by the way.
I think I said the number, but yeah, it was really low fanfare. I mean, we were so hyped about training camp, it just sort of worked out. But George says, how far you guys have come. If Ridder isn't the guy, we've always got Heineke. We know he's got that dog in him. We go as far as Ridder takes us. If he's not the guy, we have to find the guy. Hashtag should have drafted Stequavius. Oh, George, I love you, buddy. Yeah.
I will say first, thank you, George. You're the man. But, if that was facetious or not, Heineke is one of the better backups in the NFL. And yeah, I mean, Heineke's looked fine. He's looked decent so far. He threw the interception today to Jalen Hawkins. Shout out to Jalen Hawkins. He has 2 picks in 2 days.
Yeah.
Like Jalen Hawkins has come into training camp on a mission this year. But other than that pick, and I know it's hard to say, oh yeah, other than this really bad moment, I think Heineke looked better. I think Heineke looked like the better quarterback overall. He had that pass to Jonnu Smith that I mentioned. He had a really good pass to beat zone coverage to Kadero Hodge. That may have been the deepest completion of the day regarding air yards. So, I mean, Heineke, if for whatever reason Heineke does need to step in, he's a quarterback that's won 24 games in the NFL over the past few years. I think he has an around 500 record, which I know that doesn't sound sexy, but it's pretty good for a backup quarterback. He led Washington to a really good playoff performance where they almost beat the Buccaneers a couple of years ago. There's much worse hands to be in than Taylor Heineke's, and look, it's day 2 of training camp. I'm not sitting here burying Ridder. I'm not saying, oh yeah, bench Ridder or whatever. There's a chance if Desmond Ridder does not look good a few weeks in, and if the team is, struggling because of him, or if the team is, even winning despite him or succeeding despite him, there is a chance that we could have a very difficult conversation. And I mean, Taylor Heineke knows that. He came to this team with a bunch of contract incentives, knowing that, hey, if he plays a certain amount of games, he's going to make some more money, and he knows that possibility is there.
Yeah. I mean, Taylor Heineke's a really good backup. He's fun too. He's a guy that will take risks. He's got some movement ability to him. He's got some legs. He did have the best throw today. Like you said, I think, that throw to Jonnu over the middle, he threaded it over the top of the defender, and Jonnu was able to take it for big gain. He did throw that pick too. I think that was a really good play by Jalen Hawkins. I mean, it was a dangerous pass over the middle. But Hawkins was right there, picked it off. I'm guessing that Heineke probably just didn't see him. And that's the thing with Heineke. He's going to take risks. He's going to try to push the ball and go for big plays. it's fun to watch. It can result in some really good stuff, but he's also a guy that is prone to turnovers, and that a lot of times is going to get you to 500. But that's not the worst fallback plan in the world, and we've seen what Arthur Smith can do with lesser quarterbacks, we'll say. But I mean, I don't think I'm going out on a limb here by saying Heineke's better than Marcus Mariota. So he's not as mobile. I mean, there's few quarterbacks that are as mobile as Mariota. So, that Mariota's going to have the advantage as a rusher always, but Heineke's a better passer. He could do all the things you need him to do if he does have to come on the field. I don't think it's in serious consideration that Ridder's going to get pulled. Obviously our tune could change if 4 games in. It's a nightmare. I'm not going to consider that at this point 2 practices into training camp. We're going to leave that nightmare fuel for the actual season. But yeah, I mean, I think it's really great to have Heinicke here. This is a guy that's, also worked his way up from a UDFA, knows how to be an NFL quarterback and knows how to deal with adversity. And I think he'll be a big help to Ridder off the field as well. But maybe that's a good segue into talking about how Ridder looked today, Adnan, because I know everyone's going to want to know. What did you think? Because there's a lot of takes out there. Obviously, we don't know. I don't know anyone who's been able to say for sure, like, if it was Ridder that threw that pass to London on that Clark Phillips rep. I mean, I think that it was. So in that case, that was another poor deep shot. But
it would make sense if it was Ridder, because why would Heinicke be taking the first rep, like throwing it to London?
Exactly. So I mean, we think it was, but it's not confirmed, so we can't really bury him at this point. So.
Yeah, but I mean, as for Ridder, he looked better than yesterday, which, I mean, it's not the highest bar to clear. He threw the 2 interceptions yesterday, couldn't really throw it deep, but it still wasn't good enough to make you feel comfortable. And I'm not going to come on here and say, yeah, no, like Desmond Ridder looked great, like he looked amazing. He didn't look great. I don't think he looked like super good either. I think he looked, adequate. Throughout, like he hit more passes than he missed, which, I mean, you would hope so in those scrimmages, without like any like serious pressure. I think Mike Rothstein over at ESPN, he tracks all of the quarterback completions and in practice and during scrimmages. He said that Ridder went 7 for 11, no touchdowns, no picks, which, I mean, it's fine. Like, nice. He did struggle throwing deep again. He missed Matt Collins on a seam route where, a good pass would have been a touchdown. We're not going to sugarcoat like Desmond Ridder. We're not going to sit here and say, yeah, put on your blinders and just like, he is the guy, even though, like, I'm sure the team would love for us to do that. But I mean, that's, that wouldn't be fair to you guys if we just like lied. But I mean, what you want to see is that he did make those improvements on day 2. He was hitting those short intermediate routes. It looked good. He was hitting his tight end. He had a really good play in the red zone where on the first play he maneuvered around the pocket and then found an open MyCole Pruitt over the middle. He had a really good play in the red zone where he had this quarterback keeper after a play action, looked like a designed run, where I think it did count as a touchdown, maybe, unless they like blew it right at like the 1. It was hard to tell, but
yeah,
we got a good game. He was also reprimanded by Arthur Smith for holding on to the ball and for not hitting an open man, which resulted in a Zach Harrison sack in the red zone. I think the singular play right before that, like, lit a touchdown run or maybe touchdown run. So, it was another mixed bag for Ridder. It's still day 2 of training camp. He is a very young guy. This is his de facto rookie season. Like, sure, he had the 4 games last year, but, he's really like a de facto rookie this season. But yeah, it was up and down. And all you can say is I'm glad that, he's getting better, and you want him to continue getting better instead of getting worse, because if he was worse today than he was yesterday, then it would be like, all right, like, this is a problem, but I don't think it's a problem yet.
Yeah, and it's like, to put things in context, not like giving anybody a pass, but Jordan Love looked bad day one in Green Bay, threw a bunch of picks. Aaron Rodgers apparently looked very shaky for the Jets on day one, threw some picks. Like, it's really not a big deal to throw picks in training camp, period. I mean, unless it's like literally every single day. But like, especially not to open camp. It takes time for the offense to gel. It does take time for stuff to come together. Don't listen to what Panthers fans are saying about like, oh well, Bryce Young was sharp, so therefore everybody else sucks. No, I'm happy for Bryce Young. He's a great passer. He's the number one overall pick. I mean, that doesn't shock me that he's a good passer. The concerns with Bryce Young have never been about whether he could pass the football. It's about is he going to survive getting hit by NFL edge rushers on a weekly basis? That is the question, not his passing ability. So, I love Bryce. I think he's a good quarterback prospect. He's my QB1. He's most people's QB1. So, it don't overreact to the first day or two of training camp. If we're here a week from now, which we will be, talking about Desmond Ridder still throwing picks and not being able to hit any deep shots, then yeah, at that point, I think we might be a little bit more concerned, but we take it day by day, see what happens, see how things evolve. And we, we're going to give you guys unfiltered what happened. And then of course we'll provide context that we feel is necessary, but it's ultimately up to you guys to draw your own conclusions. You're going to do that. If we think you're wrong, or we'll try to pump the brakes on some stuff that we think maybe is getting blown out of context. But, we'll talk about some other plays today that were good plays. That's the thing, especially with one-on-ones. Like in every one-on-one, there's a guy that did a great job and got the W, and there's a guy that got the L. The guy that got the L, this is one rep. And nobody wants to talk about it, but typically those one-on-ones favor the offensive player quite a bit. So it's, don't put too much stock in it. It's fun. It's going to be also the only clips we're getting is one-on-ones and drills because we can't film team stuff anymore.
Yeah.
So, it's going to limit what you're seeing to very specific things. And honestly, I would say just enjoy what you can see and enjoy, the competition, but just don't take it too seriously. I mean, it's practice. Like these guys maybe they're trying up a different press technique, or they're trying up a new route combination, or they're trying to get guys matched up, that wouldn't normally see each other, or they're trying to give guys opportunities or whatever. It may not, this isn't a 1-to-1 game situation. If, honestly, training camp is fun. It's cool. We learn a lot about the depth chart. We learn a lot about which guys maybe are showing out, which guys are improving. But I could count, there's a bucket of things over here of training camp storylines that meant absolutely nothing by the time week one rolled around. It's like Bernard Reedy, training camp hero, did absolutely nothing in the regular season. Auden Tate, winner of day one of training camp last year, was cut a week later. So it really
got Austin Trammell in shorts.
Yeah.
Absolute monster.
I still believe in Austin Trammell, but we love you, Austin. But I'm still holding on to that one, unfortunately. But what I would say is you can react however you want to what you see on Twitter, what you read in the notes, but wait to see the cumulative stuff at least the first few days before you start to really panic. I mean, if you want to panic off of a couple of clips, I guess that's fine. There's not really much else to go off of, but it you're going to be putting yourself through a lot, and I would recommend that you just wait to put yourself through the ringer for the regular season games that matter, and don't get too jazzed up and crazy over some training camp reps, because we get a long season to go here, guys. That's all I'm saying. But anything you want to add on that note, Adnan?
No, I mean you sort of said it all. It's 2 days of training camp. Well, we've seen many quarterbacks, have their share of struggles there at camp. Aaron Rodgers notoriously, was sometimes a pick machine in Green Bay in training camp. Matt Ryan got picked off by his OC in training camp. Now it's it's different with a young player, with a player who hasn't really proven anything in the NFL. You do want, yeah, you do sort of put him under the microscope a bit more than some of these veterans, where it's like, all right, that Matt Ryan's going to go out there and give you 4,500 yards, no matter what, and he's going to throw 30 touchdowns. But it is still very early. But I'm also not going to say it's absolutely nothing. Like I'm not gonna say, oh yeah, like just put the blinders on, and it's just like, yeah, and Ritter's just gonna be a Pro Bowl level player, just completely discount every single thing you're seeing in training camp. He does deserve the benefit of the doubt, because especially these like deep shots, like these deep shots, like they haven't really like gotten into that rhythm yet with them. But one thing I'd like to see a few more of them. Like they're not really dialing them up enough. Like if
Yeah.
how do you expect him to get better at it if you just if you call 2 or 3 deep shots per practice? Like dial one up once in a while. It doesn't all have to be flat routes and just crossing patterns over the middle. Like, yeah, it's if the mistakes are going to happen, let them happen now, as opposed to if you're down by 13 and all of a sudden you can't just like rely on the run game, and you sort of have to start passing the ball a bit, and you have to start pushing it deep. Like, so I mean that's my only like complaint so far. Like I'm not super concerned yet that the Falcons haven't hit a single deep shot in practice and camp. I would like to see one hit tomorrow. Like that
Yeah.
that would ease my nerves.
That would help.
Yeah,
That would
well,
help.
a couple more on Saturday, but I would like to see a few more called. Like it's unreal how many crossing patterns they've been calling.
It's a lot of crossers. Some of them were deep crossers, like 15, 20 yards, but like not much more than that was correcting. Not much more than that was connecting, I should say. But like also in Joe Schmo, shout out to Joe, made a good point, and it's like the amount of credit or blame people give to the quarterback when it comes to the pass game is just kind of ridiculous. And he's right. Like maybe the receiver rounded off the route. Maybe they ran the wrong route, and maybe that's why some of these weren't connecting. I mean, this is the first couple training camp practices for the receivers as well, so we assume that the quarterback was at fault, but that's not always a safe assumption. It's the
I
easy assumption, but
I do agree with that, but I completely disagree with Joe's follow-up comment that we need to just leave deep shots out of the playbook. That's You can't do that in the NFL in 2023. I'm sorry,
yeah.
you just ignore deep shots and deep passes.
And it's something that Arthur Smith really wants to do. It's like a core part of his offense. I'm sure you know, Joe. Like that was a big reason of why that Tennessee offense in 2020 was so good, is because they could hit him now. And
And
if Desmond Ridder can't hit him, like we need to eventually move on. Like I mean,
you saw it last year
somebody's
with
going to have to do
Mariota.
it.
Like
Yeah.
he dialed up plenty of deep shots with Mariota last year, and Mariota missed a lot of them, but he kept dialing them up.
Yeah, and so they're gonna have to hit them. They don't have to hit a ton of them, but they need to be able to at least threaten it. And we'll see how it develops. Again, 2 days in, so and again, like everybody's talking about the deep shots, but like the majority of the passing attempts are not going to be deep shots. Obviously, it'd be great if they could hit those. I mean, we're certainly hoping that they will be able to at least get those to a certain point, but the short stuff and the intermediate stuff was sharp. Like I didn't really see any accuracy issues, except maybe there was one slight overthrow to Penny Hart that Hart ended up making a great play and catching anyway. Sort of leapt for it.
Fantastic catch,
It was
yeah.
a great catch, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it went for like no gain, but it looked really
It was
nice.
pretty. It was hella pretty. So and like also on that play that you mentioned that Arthur Smith called attention to, like where Ridder ended up keeping it when Pruitt was open for a touchdown downfield. He also called attention to the fact that, like, look, Ridder did have pressure coming, and he elected to bail. So, like, the offensive line also needs to protect better in that situation to give Ridder an opportunity to hit that shot. So, we'll see what happens. But again, you look back to the 4 games that Ridder played, and it's not like the passing game was inoperable. I think they were doing some things well, but again, the deep shots, they just weren't hitting many of them. they were at least attempting them, unlike they were with Mariota at a certain point. But that we need to be able to do that, and if Ridder just can't do it, he's not going to be the starter for very long. I mean, it's a core part of what Smith wants to do, and they have their weapons are too good with Kyle Pitts, Drake London. They need to be able to threaten deep to open up the run game, and like the Falcons still had success. The Falcons still had success last year running the ball against stacked boxes. They, I believe, were like the best team in the NFL at still generating rushing yardage against stacked boxes, but how much better would that look if they weren't always facing a stacked box? And that's what would take this offense from being sort of middling overall to being quite deadly, being able to hit those deep shots. So, it needs to improve, obviously. We're going to be looking for that. We're going to be monitoring that very closely. I'm sure everybody is, but it may be that this is a team that wins with a lot of short to intermediate routes, occasionally pepper in some deep stuff, and then just crush things with the run game. And maybe that's enough.
Fine.
I don't know, but
I mean, like that would be fine, but it's still like, I don't know. I'm of the mindset that you can't just win with short to intermediate stuff in today's NFL.
And that's not going to be enough to keep you as the starter if you just can't do that. Also, like you're going to have to be able to do that eventually, or they're going to be looking for somebody else. So, again, way too early to be talking about we're already looking for a quarterback next year. But like that is a possibility. Like that the Falcons could be saying, okay, well, Ridder was not good enough, or Ridder was fine, but we want more, and still looking for a quarterback, or maybe Ridder looks good. I mean, I don't know. We'll see. Let's wait till we see some games before we start, bringing out the pitchforks at least. But
I mean, it's still way too early. But yeah, I would like to see them practice be more of those deep, because we can see that they do have the chemistry, on the short to intermediate stuff. But yeah, I mean, I would like to see, I mean, both Ridder and Heineke get some of those reps on some of the deeper stuff in the coming days.
Yeah. We got another donation from George Costanza with the $2. Thanks so much, George. He says, "Remember, Adnan, it's not a lie if you believe it." It's a Seinfeld reference. Yep. Is it too early for 2024 draft takes?
Yes.
Can we start that Brock Bowers hype train now, since we know Arthur Smith is always going to go for that BPA on offense? Yeah. Unless they're picking in the top 5, they're not getting Brock Bowers. So same with Marvin Harrison Jr. Neither of those guys are falling out of the top 5. So, I think even like the darkest Falcons fans are not predicting top 5 for the draft.
Yeah, Bowers is going to go really high.
Oh yeah, he's going to be a top 5 pick.
Yeah, I mean, there's a chance that he could be the next highest drafted tight end ever, which that was Kyle Pitts a couple years ago.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it will be. I will say, I think if this team is picking top 5, I don't think that they'll be going after Bowers. I mean, yeah, they have done BPA. I think if they're picking top 5, it will be with a quarterback in their headlights.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, if they're picking top 5, that will probably mean that the Ridder project went completely catastrophic.
Oh yeah, like if they're picking in the top 5, it was catastrophically bad on offense, more than likely. So yeah, I mean they'll be taking a quarterback at that point. Don't worry about that. But yeah, guys, before we continue on with our show, a lot of people have been pitching in, but if you're interested, George helped us get most of the way there. But yeah, if you're interested in helping out with the training camp fundraiser, the link is in the show description. It's streamlabs.com/Falcoholic/tip. Thank you to everyone who's contributed to that. If you're interested in taking part in our Patreon, you can get some exclusive perks, as well as access to our Patreon fantasy leagues, which are going to be forming over the next week. And we'll start drafting, I think, right around the first preseason game. Make sure you sign up at patreon.com/Falcoholic Live. All tiers are going to get access to those fantasy leagues, and you also get access to exclusive Q&A sessions, as well as early access to podcast episodes. So yeah, it's fun. Cool group there. get some Discord privileges as well. And speaking of the Discord, check that out as well. Links in the show description if you want to come hang out and chat with your fellow Falcons fans. That's been popping off, obviously, with training camp going on. So definitely check that out, guys. And yeah, just throwing another plug for Friday at tomorrow, Friday, 6 p.m. at Sweetwater Tap Room, 195 Otley Drive in Atlanta. We will be doing a live show, doing a Falcons fan gathering, hangout, all that good stuff. Come hang out with Adnan and I, Gina, Will McFadden, all those guys. Come check us out, folks. If you want to, if not, that's cool. We won't be offended. Whatever you guys want to do. All right. Spent a lot of time, obviously, on Ridder because everybody cares about Ridder. But Jalen Hawkins, you mentioned him earlier. 2 picks already. He's looking good. But I think also like Richie Grant had a good day today. He had that sweet pass breakup in one-on-ones working against MyCole Pruitt. That was nice. I think we saw some nice things. You mentioned Jonnu Smith. I think Mac Hollins had a great rep working against Jeff Okudah. Then Jeff Okudah had a great rep working against Drake London. We couldn't film that one, so everyone's like burying Jeff Okudah because of that video. But like Okudah had a great rep in the team session
in the red zone, yeah.
And that actually was not a badly thrown deep shot, to be fair. That one was actually pretty on target, but Okudah just broke it up. It was a good play. So, so don't just like take what we're able to tweet out is just a snapshot. It's not the whole practice. So like read the tweets too. Don't just like hit the retweet on the videos. I mean, the videos are great. Don't get me wrong, but Okudah I wouldn't say he had a poor day or has had any overall struggles in camp. I think the secondary as a whole has actually been really good. And I think that's one of the best things that we've seen so far is like the defense as a whole, and I think has been by far the most impressive part of this team. I mean, they've been crushing it.
I mean, yeah. And I mean, you expect that early on in camp. I know Arthur Smith wasn't trying to hear it today when, someone mentioned that, hey, the old adage of, the defense has the advantage early on. I think he should get that down, but I think he knows it too, that, yeah, like early on, before the offense gets their stuff implemented and, gets into a rhythm, because so much of the offense is just about being in that rhythm, between, the quarterback and the wide receivers, the offensive linemen developing that chemistry together and just like, reading each other's movements. So of course the defense has that bit of an advantage, and especially like, for the Falcons, you have a lot of very highly paid defensive players this year. A lot of guys who, you went out and you invested a lot of money in. I think I forget how much money exactly was invested into the defense this free agent period, but so a lot of it went into the defense. And I mean, yeah, they look good. They've been dominating. They've for the most part dominated the first couple days. Like we've barely seen any touchdowns, if any at all, like throughout these first couple days.
Yeah.
But some offensive players have definitely flashed. We talked about the tight ends today. I will give a big shout out to Carlos Washington Jr., who he's the 4th string running back, and he's acting like he wants to stay, on this 53-man or on this depth chart, and to make this 53-man roster. All those guys have done the first 2 days has been make plays. Like he had a great one-on-one rep today, and he had a fantastic run, which I think could have gone the distance if it was a real game. So, we'll see a lot of Carlos Washington in preseason, especially in that 3rd preseason game. They'll probably run him a lot.
Yeah.
The Teron Ward treatment from a few years ago.
Yeah,
But,
I mean, no, sorry, didn't mean to cut you off. No, I've been impressed by him too. Please continue.
yeah, no, Carlos Washington, he looks very good. Matt Collins had that good catch today. We haven't seen a lot of Kyle Pitts yet. Bijan Robinson in the moments when he can flash, we've talked about him. Tyler Algier just keeps chugging along. Kaderil Hodge had a nice catch today, but yeah, it's been mostly, the secondary dominating, and it was nice to see, of course, Grady Jarrett is dominating as he usually does, and it's good to see Zach Harrison also making some plays and getting singled out by Arthur Smith today as well.
Yeah, I mean, Zach Harrison, I think, has been the biggest. He was the winner on the defensive line today for sure. I mean, we saw Albert Huggins get a tackle for loss. We saw uh, David Onyemata get a nice tackle for loss too. But then we saw Richie Grant get a sack. He's not on the defensive line, but he got a sack on a blitz. And then Zach Harrison, 2 sacks. He got some pressure, and he is just a massive person. Like, it's like, oh, is that Calais? Nope, nope, it's Zach Harrison. And Calais Campbell's like still bigger somehow than Zach Harrison is, but we haven't even seen Calais Campbell yet, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But you know, it, I mean, Zach Harrison like didn't really come in with high expectations, sort of a developmental pass rusher, but that's sort of Ryan Nielsen's specialty. And Harrison, was getting some reps in there with the first team guys. And look, those interior guys were forcing plays out of the pocket, and Zach Harrison was able to clean up and make some plays there. So it just I was really impressed with Harrison today. He was one of the guys I was sort of expecting to have like a quieter camp as like a developmental guy, but I mean, look, hey, excited to see edge rushers standing out in training camp. On what a world we live in.
Yeah, we haven't had that in very, very long time, a very long time. But yeah, like some more depth chart stuff. We're seeing Bud Dupree lining up as a strong side linebacker on the outside a lot today, like a lot with the first team. Joe Gaziano, 2 days in a row, we're
The
mentioning him.
Gaz.
Yeah, playing with those first teamers in run defense, and in Calais Campbell's absence. Don't write Joe Gaziano off. Like he would probably be on my 53-man roster right now. Like, at the current moment, based on what we've seen. I will give a big shout out to Albert Huggins today, out of Clemson. He had a great pass breakup at the line of scrimmage, batted down a Taylor Heineke pass, absolutely textbook. Got a lot of praise from the coaches for that. Saw Timmy Horn in there with the first teamers as well, as we did yesterday. Um, I think we saw some Nate Landman with the first teamers, mixing in a little bit. So just some of those depth chart moments to really look out for. And offensive line, it was more of the same as yesterday. Matt Hennessy is running with the first team left guards, running as the first team left guard. First teamers are as they were yesterday. So it probably won't be a case of one day Hennessy, one day Bergeron, the way we saw last year with Hennessy and Dahlman. I think Coach did mention that Matt Hennessy's really loved in that offensive line room. Like,
Yeah.
he's very respected, and a lot of the guys really enjoy him and his company. So, I mean, if that left guard battle isn't as solidified as we thought with Matthew Bergeron, where after the draft we're like, yeah, just they love this guy, pencil him in right away from day one. He's gonna have to earn it, and Matt Hennessy is, he's not really gonna give it away lightly. But we'll see. We'll see how these linemen and how everyone looks when pads come into play. I don't know if that will be tomorrow, but you know, maybe tomorrow or Saturday. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Um, I mean, I think it's cool to see, how the chart's sort of taking shape. You mentioned it. A lot of these guys like Bud Dupree getting more run with the first team, and again, maybe that has more to do with Calais Campbell. Maybe it's Joe Gaziano that's getting those reps, but it's good to see those guys. They just have a lot of options, which is like, they're able to mix in like Lorenzo Carter and Bud Dupree and Arnold Ebiketie, Joe Gaziano. I mean, all these, and Calais Campbell's not even out there, and it's like they're still doing a great job. So I'm really impressed with the depth, and I think that was what we've been talking about all offseason, is that they have such a deep rotation. I mean, you can weather injuries, you can keep guys really fresh. We saw Timmy Horn, you mentioned as well. Like, Timmy Horn, I think, is a guy that, like, if Eddie Goldman doesn't come back, it seems like he's the favorite. I think Carlos Davis had a sack yesterday too, so that they've got some somewhat interesting nose tackle depth options if they need to. And yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see how this develops. I'm excited to see the preseason, and then again, like, we're gonna continue to see how this shakes out, how this grows, how these players look over the next week, and then we'll get some joint practices with Miami, which are always interesting. But again, you'll remember, like, everyone was like, oh, the Jets were cooking the Falcons in that, in those practices, and guess what? It didn't really. The Jets weren't a better football team than the Falcons last year. I mean, they were. The defense was certainly, but that offense was miserable. So, it's not. That's not the end all be all of anything either. So we'll monitor that. We'll get some preseason games, and then I'm sure we'll get lots of unhinged takes from those preseason games where we get a heavy dose of Logan Woodside, who I think has been solid, honestly.
Oh yeah, Logan's looked fine. Like,
yeah,
I don't think I've seen like any mistakes from Logan Woodside. He's just had
Toledo
a very
legend.
very nice, steady training camp so far.
Yeah. So like, we'll see. We'll see if Ridder gets more training camp reps than a typical starter would. We'll see how much Taylor Heineke plays, how much Woodside plays, whatever. You mentioned Carlos Washington Jr. Like, at this stage, he's going to be getting a lot of carries if they don't add any more running backs. It seems like they're comfortable letting Clint Rakovich, the fullback, carry as well. They gave him a couple carries today, so maybe they don't need to add another running back. Maybe they're just comfortable with what they have. That's a big show of faith in Carlos Washington, obviously, if that's what happens. But it's interesting. It's not really. I don't know what I was expecting, Adnan, but I guess it hasn't been exactly what I've been expecting so far. I don't know if you feel the same way.
I don't know. I think until they get into pads, it's all. Now, I don't want to say it's all moot because of course, it's practices. It matters up to an extent, but it doesn't not matter at all. But I mean, yeah, I'm just really looking forward to the first practice in pads.
Yeah, which I expect it'll be Saturday. It could be tomorrow. We'll see. I think it'll probably be Saturday. They typically like to do that first padded practice when there's going to be a lot of fans there. But we'll see. And that'll be illuminating too, especially for those trench battles, especially for the running backs to finally get an opportunity to break some tackles. So yeah, I'm interested in that. And like we said earlier, Calais Campbell, it seems like we're not going to see him anytime soon. Arthur Smith said basically like 10 days, maybe. And hopefully at the end of that 10-day period, he'll say like, okay, he's here. And again, it's Calais Campbell. He was probably never going to be a full participant in training camp anyway, given, that he's a veteran, and it's not like he needs it. He just doesn't. But, we'd still like to see him out there sooner rather than later. And then Eddie Goldman, still not practicing, didn't really get much of an answer on when he'll be out there. Also, the only other player that was not out there today was Bradley Pinion, the punter. He was dealing with a personal matter, but it doesn't sound like there's any, long-term concern there. Yeah, anything else you want to touch on, Adnan? We have a couple donations and stuff, but I did want to just check and see if there was anything else you wanted to get to today.
No, Eddie Goldman is the other name too, where he's currently dealing with some personal matters. So, hopefully all is well with him. And if it is anything, hopefully prayers out to him if those are needed. But yeah, it's right now just Eddie Goldman and Calais Campbell, and yeah, it sounds like it'll be a bit of time before we hear about Calais. It sounded like coach with that 10-day time frame was basically telling us just don't ask about him again during camp.
I didn't think he was gonna even answer at all, but he actually gave us a time frame, which I appreciated, honestly. He certainly didn't jump down my throat like the guy that Grady Jarrett really got onto somebody for asking a stupid question. That was funny. I think he was like, no, that's not what I said at all. And he just didn't answer. It's like, that was funny, but no. Yeah, I'm excited to see Calais Campbell whenever we get to see him. Maybe it's not until week 1 that we actually get eyes on him, but that's fine with me. I mean, I don't really care. As long as he's ready to go for week 1, I trust Calais Campbell to handle his shit, Like, I don't really have concerns about Calais Campbell in any way. Like, this man has played so much football. I'm sure he knows literally every defensive scheme just from film study. He's played in a lot of different schemes. I don't think Ryan Nielsen's scheme is particularly complicated for defensive linemen. That's part of the thing. It's just a one gap penetrating 4-3 for the most part. So not super concerned with Calais Campbell. I obviously we hope to see him, but if he doesn't show up until late in the preseason, late in training camp, whatever, it's not a huge deal in my book. As long as he's good to go for week 1, we're all good. So all right, got a couple donations to get to before we sign off tonight. We got Brandon with the $2. Thanks so much, Brandon. He says, thoughts on grabbing FSU edge rusher Jared Verse if we somehow get into the top 10 in next year's draft. I mean, I love Jared Verse. I think he would have been the pick at 8 if he was in this draft. Yeah, absolutely, Brandon.
Guys, what are we doing? It's literally July.
The people love draft takes, Adnan.
Like, we're gonna be talking about the draft for months. Like there's no need to start draft talk prematurely. Like it's it's day 2 of training camp. Like, let's talk about the season. Let's talk about the upcoming season.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So yeah, the answer is yes, absolutely. Jared Verse would be super high up my list unless he has like a really bad year or something. Yeah, I'm all in on Jared Verse. But yeah, also like I'm gonna try to avoid. Hopefully, we can put off the draft talk until like January this year or February. That would be my hope. But we'll see. We'll see how these guys do. We're hoping for the best here. We got Corey with the $5. Thanks so much, Corey. Appreciate that, man. He says, "Do we get more than 40 sacks this year? What do you think about that? On you think we get? Do you think we make that big of a leap?"
No, absolutely not. What? 40 sacks? Like, do you know when the last time the Falcons had 40 sacks was? Yes, like Kevin.
2008.
No, 2004.
Wow.
2004 was the last time the team had over 40 sacks. And it was Patrick Kearney and Roderick Coleman who had double-digit sacks. Like, we had to. That's a deep cut right there. Like, it's been almost 20 years. This team isn't, don't get me wrong. I like the additions that they made in free agency. I think that this defense will be much better than it was, last year and a couple of years ago. But, teams don't generally go from 18 sacks to 21 sacks to 40 sacks, like all in the span of 1 year. Like, let's take some baby steps. I would be thrilled if they got 30 sacks this year. Like,
yeah, I mean,
thrilled. Yeah. Like, they haven't had 30 sacks since 2018.
Yeah. No, I mean, honestly, like, sacks, to be fair, sacks are one of the more volatile defensive stats. They do tend to fluctuate for teams year over year. So, like, they could have some positive regression in that category. And, I think Corey Carter brings up a good point that there are 17 games now, so that helps a little bit. Maybe that gets you another sack or 2.
Games last year too, and they had 21.
Oh yeah, I mean, no, like that last year was awful. Like, don't get me wrong, but, and yeah, and Joe brings up a good point. Like, last year, Saints were nowhere near as good as they used to be in pressure rate and run defense, but they ended up getting a lot of sacks. So like, it sometimes it just doesn't. You just get a lot of sacks. Like, you just luck into sacks. Sometimes the quarterbacks you play.
The Vic Beasley method from 2016.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so sacks can be volatile. So like, it's certainly possible that they could have a big turnaround. I think I would be thinking more like 35-ish is probably what we're hoping for. Maybe more. I mean, but I think if they get to 30 plus, we're probably pretty happy at this point.
I'll be thrilled.
Yeah. I mean, so.
Like, don't get me wrong, Corey. Like, nobody hopes that we get 40 sacks more than I hope we get 50 sacks.
Yeah.
Like, that'll be
60,
fantastic. Yeah. Like, let's look like the 2009 Vikings out there, with these sacks. But I just think 40. I would lower your expectations a little bit. And I mean, if I'm wrong, I would be absolutely thrilled to be wrong. Like, I would love to come on the show, at near the end of the season and be like, hey guys, I was wrong. We got, we're at 42 sacks already this year. Like, this team, if we get to 40 sacks like this, I have no doubt that this team is going to probably win the NFC South.
Yeah, for sure. They'll be like one of the biggest defensive turnaround stories in the NFL if they do that. Like, oh wow, this Falcons defense made like a massive jump. They could still have a massive jump even if they don't get to 40 sacks, but that would be an indicator that they probably made a massive jump in terms of all defensive stats,
And
not just sacks.
they almost had 40 in 2017. They fell just short of 39, and
That's
I
right.
mean that was a top 10
That
defense.
was a good year. Yeah, that was the best defense I've seen for the whole time I've been covering the team, which was really only since like 2014. But um, still, that was the best defense. So hopefully, I think this defense this year has a chance to be the second best defense. And like I won't rule out that they could be better than 2017's defense, but yeah. All right, we got one more from George Costanza with the $2. Thank you so much, George. He says, are you guys going to do play-by-play for all the preseason games again this season? I think you guys should continue to do it for the whole season. I am hyped for this year. By the way, Adnan, if Braves end up making the World Series, I'm going, and I might have an extra ticket, wink, wink. So, I'll let you two connect off air about that. But
No,
yes.
George, I would love to go to the World Series. I mean, I think, go Braves. I think we will absolutely. This is our year. Like I have the utmost confidence in the Braves making the World Series. It's World Series or bust, baby.
Yeah.
Anything short. It's not Super Bowl or bust for the Falcons. I'll be thrilled if they get to the playoffs. The Braves are different. My expectations for the Braves are like up here.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, that team's just ready to win now.
Yeah. I don't
No,
even
Corey, I
watch
did not
baseball,
jinx
and I've been
anything, by the
impressed.
way. I don't believe
Yeah.
in jinxes. Like
Yeah.
it's World Series or bust. Me saying that will not affect anything.
So we
Um,
know who to blame if they don't make it. So.
uh, but regarding we will do play by play. I don't think I'll be here for the second preseason game, which is the most important one. So
We'll
I
figure something out.
yeah,
Yeah.
we'll figure something out. I think I may be in North California for those few days, but I'll definitely be here for the first and third preseason games. So, I'll definitely be here for that Logan Woodside and Carlos Washington uh backfield game for the majority of that Steelers game, where it'll probably be the majority of Steelers fans in the Benz.
Yeah. We need to come up with some kind of Logan Woodside like nickname. We'll work on it. If he takes off, I was just thinking, if he takes off, I'm gonna do Logan's Run for sure. Great sci-fi movie, by the way, classic. But other than that, we're gonna have to workshop that some more.
Logan laying the wood out here, And
Logan laying the wood side if he makes the special teams tacklers. That's
yeah,
probably only gonna happen if he throws a pick. So I'm not gonna hope for that
we can work a BlueChew out in there too.
That's true. That's just late. That's just right there for us to take. So we'll save that. We'll continue to workshop that. So tune in to see what we end up going with there. But
But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I think the preseason play-by-play will be a thing.
Yeah, we'll be doing the preseason play-by-play again. I know you guys want that for the whole season. We'll consider doing that. It's probably not going to be this year. It could be something we do in future years. I know there's desire for that, and we appreciate that desire. But we have other like coverage responsibilities and things like that with the site. So like it's possible in future years if we get more staff or different responsibilities, we could sort of distribute it so that we can do that during the
We're definitely
game.
flattered. Like we're
Yeah.
definitely flattered, but it's like for the preseason, it's uh the people covering the preseason just don't even know the players like beyond the
Yeah.
second stringers. And I mean,
It's
like
yeah.
we're there for all of camp, and we're very familiar with a lot of the players, like even the deep cut guys. So I definitely think we do a much better job,
Yeah.
but I'm not going to say that we do a better job than like the Fox guys.
Probably not. Yes.
Pros.
I
Um,
mean, we care about the Falcons, so we'll give you more of that Falcon centric coverage. But it's possible we'll do like like what we might do is like maybe we'll do one game as like a tester. We'll see how it goes, and then evaluate going forward what we want to do. But yeah, we'll consider it certainly. I think it would be fun. I mean, I don't enjoy doing it, but it is a lot to do it every single week, in addition to other game coverage. So. But yeah, thank you for asking, George. Yeah, well, Adnan, before we sign off, I do want to remind everyone to like, subscribe if you've enjoyed this program. We appreciate it. If you're listening to the podcast audio after the fact, leave us that 5-star review. That helps us out. Leave us a comment on your thoughts on training camp so far. We appreciate those as well. And yeah, a couple things. If you want to support us, you can do so on Patreon, patreon.com/Falcoholic Live for those exclusive perks, access to those Falcoholic fantasy leagues that everyone seems to be super interested in. So those are a lot of fun. So I don't blame you. And then if you're interested in helping out with the training camp fundraiser, which has rocketed up from the high 30s all the way up to 86% on tonight's show. So shout out George and shout out Corey and everybody else who donated, Yannick and Brian as well. I probably forgot someone in that mix, so I apologize. But everybody, thank you so much for that. If you want to pitch in as well, streamlabs.com/Falcoholic/tip. If you donate while we're off air, that's fine. Just make sure you put in your question there, and we'll get that. We'll be able to read it on the next show. Totally fine. For Venmo, you can do so on my Twitter. It has a direct link to my Venmo account. And yeah, join the community Discord server as well, guys. The link is in the show description. A lot of great Falcons talk there. I know it's super active on game days as well. So if you want to chat with fellow Falcons fans there, great place to do so. And yeah, join us at Sweetwater Friday, 6 p.m. We'll be hanging out. We'll be doing a live show. It'll be a lot of fun. So join us there, guys. Hope to see you. Yeah, Adnan, anything else before we sign off tonight?
Nope. Just plugging our training camp coverage, which will, continue on tomorrow and into the next day as well. So, yeah, we published our training camp news and notes for day 2 a little while ago. So, that's fresh. If you haven't read that, if you haven't had a chance to read that, it's mostly a lot of the thoughts that we shared on the show, but in writing and maybe a bit more organized and in depth. So definitely check that out.
Yeah. And yeah, Brandon, all technical stuff considered, if it works out, it will be 6 p.m. that we go live here as well. So if we can do it live, broadcast it also, streamed, then we will. The internet shouldn't be a problem, but you never know when you get down there what's going to happen. So it should be okay. So you guys should get the live show as well, and we'll try to get some live Q&A and all that stuff as too for those that are attending. But yeah, guys, really appreciate everyone for hanging out tonight. I am at Falcoholic Kevin on the Twitters. Adnan is at Say Which Way. We'll have all those clips and all that good stuff coming to you there. If you're tuning into the show late, you can go to thefalcoholic.com and get all of our written notes, which, we mostly covered on the show here. So if you've listened to the show, you probably don't have to go read it. But if you'd like to give us the click, please do. Falcoholic.com for all that written content. And yeah, guys, really appreciate it. We'll be at Flowery Branch bright and early once again tomorrow. And we'll be bringing you all that sweet, sweet coverage. And yeah, until next time, guys, tonight's show, of course, was brought to you by BetOnline. We will see you guys tomorrow at Sweetwater. If you're at training camp, feel free to say hi as well. We'd love to meet some of you guys. And yeah, we will talk to you next time, guys. Thanks again for tuning in. We will see you tomorrow. Everybody, have a great night.